You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
Seth.
Full of energy tonight, coming at you to talk the movie of the month, the movie of maybe the year. We're talking Spider-Man No Way Home. In this timeline, it just opened yesterday as we're recording this. We all rushed out to see it within 24 hours of watching it, so it is very fresh on our minds. We hope you got out to see it because we're going to spoil it. We're going to talk about every twist, turn, cameo, moment, joke, teaser, whatever. We're going to get to all the nooks and crannies. So if you haven't seen it yet, bookmark this and come back later after you have. And we're going to dive into it.
Truth is, I accidentally brought those dangerous people here.
You started getting some visitors.
The world, if you're watching, wish me luck.
From every universe.
The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man could really use some.
You're flying out into the darkness to fight ghosts.
What do you mean?
They all die fighting Spider-Man. It's their fate.
Ever since I got bit by that spider, I've only had 1 week where my life has felt normal.
Spider-Man is old but invincible. But Parker, we can destroy him.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone. But together we can. You are not alone.
Peter, you're struggling. Have everything you want. While the world tries to make you choose.
The longer you do it, the more dangerous it becomes. I want to help you. Remember, kid, with great power comes great responsibility.
Cliff, as the biggest Spider-Man fan here and Doctor Strange fan, you've got to lead us off. How nuts were you to see this movie? How you were losing sleep to get out to this movie?
Yeah. I had a real internal debate whether or not I was even going to go see it, but with a little bit of encouragement from my wife, I decided last minute to go down, take it in, get the full experience, and see what it was all about. I did no preparation, did not watch any of the previous Tom Holland movies. Yeah, I mean, I've seen them, but not since they came out. So,
Well, I didn't know we weren't supposed to rewatch them, were we?
well, I think my kid has been I think Cooper's been watching. I think he's been watching like a marathon of Spider-Man movies for a week and a half now. So
That's how I spent my week.
did you? Yeah. So
Yeah, Sunday I was wrapping presents and cleaning the house, so I'm like, I'm just putting these movies on. So I still have all the DVDs of the Sam Raimi trilogy, so I dusted off. I was cleaning anyway, so I dusted off my DVD player, popped the DVDs in, and just played all 3 movies on Sunday as I was puttering around the house. And then they've been playing the other Homecoming and Far From Home on FX or somewhere, so I caught both of those this week, and some channel was playing the Andrew Garfield, the first one, but I haven't seen the second one in ages. So I saw most of the previous Spider movies in this past week, but it didn't really. I mean, this movie wasn't really in depth plot wise. Like there wasn't any little intricacies. If you vaguely remember these movies, I think you got everything you needed to know out of it.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought it was, after seeing it, I thought, well, that was, I don't know, that's probably the best Spider-Man movie I've seen. Like you said, I haven't been a fan of Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange, and since he's been around in the MCU, and that I definitely wasn't swayed away from that opinion. Like I was pretty much, I was happy for the most part that he didn't have a whole lot of screen time in this. He was in it plenty for me. So
I've seen people complain that this version of Spider-Man hasn't even really had a solo movie, and that the first one, it was all about Iron Man and how he connected to Iron Man, and the second one was Nick Fury and him, getting into all that corner of the Marvel universe. And now this one's Doctor Strange. It's like, he hasn't really had his own time to shine. Ain't being in all the teen movies he's been in.
Well, and certainly if they want to, that they set it up with this movie that he can go do all that now. But yeah, I was perfectly happy with what it was. It didn't, Jordan and I were in the same theater. We saw it at the same time. We were not sitting together, but there was a lot of cheering, a lot of just general excitement in our theater. It wasn't all the way full, but it was full enough that people were pretty hyped up for it, and they were pretty excited whenever there was a cameo of some sort in the film. So I did not have that reaction. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. So,
and again, I don't know what was common knowledge going into it, what was assumed, what was hoped for, what was leaked. I mean, I know people had, like, I generally avoid stuff. I'm not really militant about it, but I don't read reviews before I go in. I don't watch, I don't go over the trailers frame by frame if I even watch the trailers. But like the day it came out, a customer was in, it's like, oh, I'm on my way to go see it. Because now I know Morbius is in it because I saw a screen grab from the trailer, and I'm sure Venom's going to make it. Like, he was listing all these things that he was 100% sure of. I was like, oh, great, he spoiled that. It's like, you can't spoil if you don't know what you're talking about. So, I don't know. I feel like this is one of those movies where people had all these crazy expectations, but it kind of paid them off. Like, this was a level of fan service. Like, we've talked before how the Avengers movies are so crazy they even exist, that they've managed to construct this massive unwieldy thing, but like this takes it to a whole new level of fan service that even just a couple years ago I would have told you you're crazy that this would have been possible. But again, they've pulled it off, and the crowd was eating it up and cheering and loving every minute of it. So again, I don't know, I'll never say that there's something they can't do, because they just keep doing things I would never believe possible.
I really liked the Spider-Men, but it reminded me a lot of, like, these villains are terrible. I always thought they were terrible. I always thought they looked terrible. And you could have, they did improve one, but I felt like they could have improved all of them a little bit there instead of leaving them.
I feel like they kind of did, or they at least tried to ground them a little bit, where, like, these previous trilogies, or 2/3 of a trilogy, like, it was all like, how comic book movies used to be. Like, everything was big and operatic and like really hammy acting, and like, I'm the villain here to destroy you, that kind of thing. Where the Marvel movies have tried to ground that a little bit. But so these guys, it felt like they walked in from a different movie, which obviously they did. So yeah, seeing these great actors like Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe are very good actors, but in these roles, they're so over the top and crazy. So, but yeah, I mean, just giving the guy the purple hoodie to put on improves the Green Goblin from that weird plastic costume he wore in the first one. So, Yeah, I liked what they did with all the villains. Jamie Foxx, his Electro was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me, all the villains were better than their previous incarnations.
That's what I was going to say. When he said that, I was like, I think literally every villain was better in this one. The little changes they made.
They all just look the same to me. You know, the crappy CGI Sandman, the
Lizard and the Sandman,
yeah.
all these billions of dollars. I don't know how they didn't look that much better.
But then again, when at the point they're supposed to be just plucked right out of there. You know, that's who they are. Pulling what they looked like then into this universe. If they looked different here, it would have been weird. You know, I don't know.
Well, I think they could have looked the same and been done better. Like it looked like CGI from 2003 sometimes. A lot of times. That was my big hang up. I thought the Spider-Man stuff was great, but it was just the villains were But I always had that opinion before. I always thought the villains were meh. Yeah. So
that's famously the Green Goblin looked terrible. The mask, I like that there's like, yes, he's here. This mask is still stupid. Yes, we're smashing it. It's gone. Put a hood on.
And then the next one, he's going to Kylo Ren and weld it back together.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, I appreciated they gave them all, even if it was thin, they gave them all kind of unique motivations. It wasn't just like, we're the bad guys, we got to kill Spider-Man. You know, Sandman just wanted to go home. He didn't care about the rest of them. I can't remember even who was in this movie. Yeah, Doc Ock. He had different reasons for wanting to do what he did. So yeah, everybody had. I had this thought earlier. Now I'm losing my train.
They each brought their own different baggage to it. They left off, what they were there for, and it wasn't just like you're saying collectively. Like, hey, we're all, after exactly the same thing. You know?
So I was going to say the ending made sense. That it wasn't just a big brawl, which it was, but they were all fighting for something different. They were all fighting for their own self-interest, and it had all been set up at least. I said, even if it's, for a movie with this many villains, to have them, everything kind of tracks through. There's a through line for each of them and their characters, which again, it wasn't necessary. You could just throw them all in there and have them fight Spider-Man, and people would have been okay with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I just saw it a couple hours ago, so I'm still digesting everything, but I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I was surprised by. I didn't know how. I'd only seen the first trailer, but so I don't know what you really saw in the last couple. I'm assuming probably too much, but still, you can't avoid knowing what this was going to be. I didn't know for sure that Andrew Garfield was going to be in it, so I was pretty sure, but when he was revealed, that was pretty exciting. When he came in and took his mask off or whatever, that was a little exhilarating. Like, it's not going to be a cameo. He is here in this movie doing a lot of stuff. That was amazing.
That guy's having a month right now. Andrew Garfield.
That's that. And the fact that they were the ages they were, like, they're older. Mm-hmm. These Spider-Men are older, and they didn't try to make it like they plucked these villains seemingly from their edge of death, some of them, and in those moments we remember, but not the Spider-Men are not from there. The Spider-Men have lived. They're old and bitter, and they didn't bother trying to CGI them up or anything. They were, right. I don't know. That was good because That's not your instinct. The instinct is to do exactly what you did with the villains. Like we're also bringing the Spider-Man in, and they're gonna have some fakey
pretend nothing is
this is
no
not understanding anything. No, these are wise old Spider-Men. That was good. That gave it there's a lot to say about that.
All you needed, and I'm sure there were people who expected in the final battle, oh, Peter's about to die. Oh, these other Spider-Man came in and rescued. Like, that's all you really needed was a glorified cameo. But like, again, you brought them in early. You developed their character. You showed how they relate. Like that was my favorite parts of this movie. I could have watched the whole movie of them just sitting on the roof talking. Right. That probably could have been edited down. It was kind of long and fan servicey again, but
a lot of it
was
felt
fascinating. I loved it.
A lot of it felt like deleted scenes. It felt like, hey, riff for a while here.
Yeah.
Only we're gonna leave it all in the movie.
And I would have loved like a weird little indie, low budget movie of just them sitting around talking. I would have paid a ticket just for that.
Well, I think the magic they found in that they wanted to dwell on it because they're not going to get it again. This is it. Spider-Man's a loner. He is that guy that nobody knows what it's like to be Spider-Man. That's his whole deal. He's misunderstood. He's beaten down in the press. Nobody knows what it's like to have all of this on your shoulders, having to balance on an edge, keeping your aunt alive and your friends safe and everything, and try to go to school and do all these things you have to do, and nobody understands. And now you have two friends now that are the only people that could understand, and the support they were able to give him was just that they wanted. It's like everybody wants to see that. You just got to revel in that a bit, as these guys said. It's okay. I do get it. You're amazing. You are amazing.
And that feels meta in a lot of ways, where like people are constantly comparing them. Oh, who's your favorite? Is it Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield? And like, no, you're great too. Like it felt even like the actors, because this is also a little bit of a curse. Like being a superhero, you become world rich and famous, but you're put through so much nonsense, and the fans are so demanding, and you got to go to Comic-Con and shake everybody's hands. Like this feels like them coming back to it and celebrating. Hey, I was Spider-Man one time. Like, how cool is that?
Exactly. It's not just the fact, like I'm saying, just Peter Parker. Peter Parker's getting to support each other. It's the actors that had to do that. Like you're saying, Andrew Garfield did not have the exciting time he thought he was going to have being Spider-Man. And like you've got Tobey Maguire who did, get to say, dude, you were good. You were very amazing. And I understand what you went through, there's a lot of meta to this that we'll get to later. All right.
But that's
other thoughts.
Probably my favorite line of the thing is when Garfield's like, yeah, Peter number 3. Like he knows he's number 3.
All right. I laughed out loud many times. Things like that. That was funny. Very funny.
But can I put on my fanboy hat and like, okay, what we got was terrific. But again, it's a little bit undersold. Like the way I complained about Civil War, Captain America Civil War came out. It's like, you're hyping a civil war and there's like 8 people in this fight. Now, eventually we got to Endgame and everything was amazing. But like, this is like the dimensions are cracking open and everyone from every universe is coming. Well, every universe is 2 universes. Like I knew like the 70s Spider-Man from the TV show wasn't going to walk
there's
in.
Only so much you can do. I want to.
We weren't going to get Miles Morales. We weren't going to get. It wasn't going to be that. But
we don't own everything.
Some part of me that's like, it was just 2 universes. Like that's not that big a deal.
Especially after I spent this week listening to the Source Material podcast. I listened to 4 parts of our buddy Jesse Starcher covering the Spider-Verse miniseries from a few years ago with I forget the guy's name was on there with him, but they went through the whole series and talked about, and there was like a billion different, obviously the comics, you can have everybody in there. You just have to draw them, and you don't have to go, talk to their agent or anything to get them in there. So like you're saying, yeah, it would have been totally awesome to see versions, all these, Easter eggy things, but
yeah.
Then again, if they'd have done one oddball, they'd have had to do a million of them. So it's better.
And I don't even know if I would have wanted that.
Right.
But I can't help being a pedantic fanboy.
But we got other stuff though. We got Matt Murdock from that. I mean, so they did some other stuff too to make it bigger.
I like when he caught that brick or whatever. He's like, "How'd you do that?" I'm a really good lawyer. That was fun.
Yeah, but just bringing him in, and we've already talked about Hawkeye and Kingpin, and that whole universe being brought into this. Whatever they're going to do with all of that, then you got other stuff too to cheer on.
How they pulled this off. Like, I mean, I assume that if I'm Tobey Maguire and they come and say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We want to bring it," insert any of these actors in there, I would assume they're going to be like, "Oh yeah," because they already said yeah back before, and now when these movies are the biggest thing ever, they want to be a part of it again. But still, the contracts that would have to have been figured out to get all these people in.
Because if one of the actors doesn't want to do it,
right, then
and one's on board, you have to have everything. Everybody in. Yeah,
it's amazing, and and then to get people. So I still can't believe it. I was a little disappointed that like Emma Stone wasn't in it somehow, or
I had thought, when the universe is cracking open, are we going to see a Mary Jane or an Aunt May from another universe? Like, is it just the villains? Maybe that's where my disappointment is, that I thought there'd be something like that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, that's
just footage, showing a scene of, you don't have to film it something new. Like even if they just showed some shot from another movie or something.
Well, all these MCU movies, to me, Spider-Man has always felt like he's been on loan. Even though they did the home movies, they always felt a little different than Iron Man and Captain America and Ant-Man and whatever. Like it wasn't tied in quite as tightly. And the end credit scene I've never seen the Venom movies. I don't really know anything about that stuff, and like that being I was totally lost.
Well,
I was like, why are we switching back? I felt like,
I didn't see the last one either, but even if you had seen none of that, with all you get from that he came along with everybody else in this situation, and he's leaving the same way they all just left.
That's why I was a little confused, because I didn't know if that was like in the same universe as the Tom Holland Spider-Man, like before the Venom movies, or
no. I mean, it's just like when he disappears at the end of that scene, it's just like all these other suckers disappear, going back to their universe.
Has Tom Holland Spider-Man?
How did Topher Grace not come out of the bathroom? Like, where did he go?
Right, yeah. Why is my suit just laying on the bar there?
Has Tom Holland been in the Venom movies with Tom Hardy?
No, it's a different universe, right?
There's something. None of us have seen Venom 2 yet, but there's some post-credit sequence I've heard people hush whispering about.
I haven't seen it either, but it has to be him being blipped into this universe.
Something.
It has to be him coming into that bar or something. That's what I get from seeing this scene. It has to be the beginning of that scene. Like him coming there like everybody, like the other villains did or whatever, and then him leaving at the end of this movie.
And I saw people because there were 5 main villains. Like, Spider-Man is very famously the Sinister Six. Why wasn't there 6? And they're taking that as the joke. Venom was number 6, but he just went to the bar and said he didn't have anything to fight about. So that again, I don't know if that's a meta thing or not.
Yeah.
But again, we've tied in already. He swings past Rogers the musical billboards, which we established in Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reference in the last Hawkeye episode about seeing the updated Statue of Liberty. And it's like, okay, that has to be something. And so it's like, again, we're going back to those old comic books where a thing that happens in this issue this month has some kind of reverberations, and you don't have to read them both, but if you do, you get extra little details.
Right,
like, how do $1 million movies do that?
Yeah, we're so lucky. I just think like these stories that we're seeing, it's kind of like I equate all these things to playing tabletop RPGs, but it's like the number one thing. I think if you've got a good idea for something to put in the story, do it now because you may never get another chance.
Yeah,
and that's how this it feels like in the MCU. It's like they did this time travel with the Endgame stuff, and this is even more aggressive, and like, where do you go from here? Like, how do you top these things? And yet, I want to know, I mean, that could have been no time ago. I mean, I know they've been planning this for years, getting this together, but I want to know the moment that somebody was like, I got it. Here's what we can do, because this writes itself. Like, honestly, once you had this idea of bringing,
there wasn't much to like the plot. You can describe it about 2 sentences. Like, it wasn't a very. Marvel sometimes has complex. This guy has to go on a quest to do this. It was just like, no, these guys are here and they need to go home, and maybe we shouldn't kill them. Yeah,
I mean, it writes itself. Whoever had the idea had to have been like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to pull this off. We'll never be able to get all these actors back. It's totally a pipe dream. But here's the story we could tell. And then for that to come to fruition is mind-boggling that they were able to do it. I loved, as soon as Tobey Maguire like shot webs, I was like, are they going to address that? And they did. They just totally had a conversation about it, and about like what you're thinking, the jokes that are made about it is like, like what they call it, but basically not being able to perform, that was
he had a block.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I can't believe they're talking about this. And the fact that that's ridiculous, but not ridiculous, like the whole. I remember that being a thing at the time. Was that, was it ever in any of the comics that he could do that?
That was the biggest thing, was organic web shooters versus mechanical. Like,
right.
That was back in, the early 2000s. That was the hot topic of nerds everywhere.
But what had it been in the comics at all, or was he always? I feel
like they retconned it at some point after this. Like, you never really needed web shooters, and then like that didn't stick around long.
Well, obviously, it's not the craziest thing ever. If you get bit by a radioactive spider, right. And you can stick to the ceiling, maybe you could shoot webs. Is that okay? Which is more harder to believe, that or you got bit by a radioactive spider, you can crawl around the ceiling, and you're a super genius who invented this substance, that can be used. It's not. It doesn't sound so crazy, compared to the web shooters. Anyway, the fact that they were able to do what they did here and give closure to these Spider-Men, most obviously, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker being able to save Mary Jane. was
especially
amazing.
because he didn't get a third movie.
Right, to do it.
You have the
To
dark.
do it. Yeah,
you have the dark part 2, and then in part 3, something he never got that. So this, especially.
That's amazing. You know, I was very impressed that I was like, he's getting to do this. He's getting to have his happy ending, which was awesome. And then the whole combination, you know, of them getting to spend some time with him and tell him, you know, don't be old and bitter, don't like us, you know, be a better Spider-Man, you know. But he has that revenge. He wants, you know, because Aunt May dies. What do you guys think of that? Like when that happened? I did. It was a little awkward. It was a little clunky there for a second. It almost felt to me like, are things like colliding here? Because it's definitely like a dual. I had not watched the Spider-Man 1 in forever. I rewatched Spider-Man 2 a couple months ago, but when Uncle Ben dies, was it just like that? Does he like say, I just need to, what she keeps saying, like she was like, I just need to rest for a second or what, you know, I don't know.
It's like the carjacking on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
He's dead pretty quickly.
Oh, okay. But anyway,
Cliff, did you have any thoughts? I
mean, on the Aunt May thing,
yeah.
That like my experience, of course, was different than both of yours, I'm sure. Just because I don't have that much I don't really have an emotional attachment to any of these movies.
Oh, I'm so emotionally attached to Aunt May. You don't even know. Yeah. I love her.
I told my son asked me today, just a little while ago. He said, "Well, how was the movie?" I said, "Oh, it was great." So it was great. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
Because that was, as I was watching it the whole time, and you know, there's guys younger than me yelling and cheering every time somebody new comes on screen, and I'm like, oh, my son is going to love this. I think it's a really good movie. I just don't. It's not in game to me. It's not, you know. Yeah.
So when she's
other movies to me, but
when suddenly she's dying, you're not like.
I actually thought that hit harder. I thought her dying and the Andrew Garfield, you know, saving MJ hit harder than anything else in the movie. Just on an emotional scale of it, because I thought, okay, because Marissa Tomei's, her Aunt May has been had a larger part, in the Marvel the cinematic universe than the other two did.
Well, they had to go. This is one change. Is like once Marvel got a hold of this stuff, any of these things, there's no poor people in the Marvel universe anymore. Like it's no more like old Aunt May. Here, take this, my last $20.
Right.
We're broke. It's like no, we're all got plenty of money.
Yeah, I've got Tony Stark's charge card.
Yeah, she's been the only character, you know, not that they've highlighted that as a huge thing, but her character was, you know, she was a working with poor people or social worker or whatever she, you know, her job was.
I mean, is that a thing in the comics too? That feast I just know from the video game.
Yeah, in the comics, that's her. Like, yeah, she volunteers at this feast center, and you know, there's a whole subplot. There's a supervillain who runs that, but that doesn't matter. But
The is that the negative guy?
Yeah,
that's all. That is the video game. That is completely the video.
Because the comics have been portraying her as the decrepit, ancient old woman. Like she's got gray hair, but she's still active and volunteers and does all the social work and stuff.
So as far as she went, I thought it was I thought they did a nice story with her.
I didn't know what was happening. As soon as she said, with great power, there comes great response, I was like, oh my God, she's going to die.
And I had that same thought, and it needled me. I swear I thought they were going to deflate it with a joke, and it would have crushed me. There were a couple moments in this movie that and the Andrew Garfield moment that I thought there was going to be a punchline. And I was like, don't do it. Don't, because these movies are so quippy and so nothing's so serious. Everything's a joke. And like, I don't know, her laying there, or like, I thought they were going to do a twist around. I don't know. I thought it was going to screw it up. But then when I realized they weren't, that's when I knew it was serious. So it was like, oh, they're not making a quip here about anything. Holy cow, they're actually going to kill her off. And I didn't like it. Sitting there in that room, I'm like, oh, I don't like, it's Aunt May. She's the cornerstone of his life. She's, she's what he does this for. But the longer I've thought about it, I kind of have come around to like, they just did it from a different angle. Like, now Marissa Tomei, Aunt May, is his Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Because we skipped all that stuff. These movies had no Uncle Ben moment. Mm-hmm. We had no origin story.
This whole trilogy was the origin story.
The entire trilogy, we learn her moral values that have rubbed off on him, and her impact and how she treats other people. And we've established that relationship. Every other movie, Uncle Ben dies in the first 15 minutes. We never know him. He's an idea.
Like they're like, well, my Uncle Ben died. My Uncle Ben died, and he's just like, I don't even have an Uncle Ben.
Yeah, there's been no mention.
I don't know.
I haven't missed that at all. That is the Batman, alley scene over and over and over again, and I'm just like, I've seen it a billion times. I am done with that.
Yeah, so instead of glossing it over in 15 minutes, we took 3 entire movies to set it up. And to really care for Aunt May and to see their relationship and how much he relies on him and how much he relies on her and she to him. So then it just meant so much more. It was so much more impactful than just that, Uncle Ben, he's, great power, responsibility. Okay. Yeah. We've heard it before. And so at that point, the trilogy is the whole, the thing we skipped. we didn't skip it. We spent 3 whole movies, and then boom, he's sewing a costume by hand. We've shed all the Tony Stark stuff. There's no more relationships. He's not an intern. He doesn't have the Stark internship and all that stuff. Now he really is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in a crappy apartment with no money, and he's a little orphan kid trying to help neighbors. And like boom, now he's Spider-Man. Because all 3 of these movies, he's never quite felt like Spider-Man. Like we've talked about, he's Iron Man Jr. or he's this version or that version. And like, again, I don't know what the contracts are. I don't know how many more of these movies he's going to make. But this feels like the first chapter of something.
Man, it feels like that last chapter. I know exactly what you're saying, but I got a different vibe from that, because what you're saying is right. Like it took 3 movies, but he did what none of those other Spider-Men got to do. He went to space. Like he said, he was with the Avengers, whoever they are, and he has done it all. He's done everything they never got to do, the biggest and wildest things, and now he is now an adult Spider-Man. He's on his own, like you say, he's making his own costume and everything. But to me, it was just very impactful when they're standing at the graveside and happy. I don't know whether he says something like, you have somebody special and then they're gone. And I don't remember what he says, but getting at, talking about her being gone, but talking about Tony being gone. But I don't think that's what they're talking about. I think they're talking about him. This is it. You had somebody for a short period of time. Marvel had Spider-Man for a short period of time, and we don't know what's going to happen from here. But we told our story and we pulled out all the stops. We did everything.
Yeah, even if this is the last one and it's 10 years from now, reboot it with a new actor or whatever. Well, now we're still at ground zero. Like this is, we've kind of reset the board.
Wherever we go from here, good luck, Sony.
Yeah.
Because this is where we're leaving you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was actually going to ask you guys, like, what's your preference after watching this? Do you want to see more Tom Holland, or are you good? And we're going to go back to this formula of in 2 years there's going to be another Spider-Man movie with a reboot, a new guy, and Sony's back in control.
Didn't he just sign on for 3 movies or something?
It's all rumor at this point.
Yeah.
First they said he was done. He said he was done. Then the rumors started circulating. Oh, he's going to do another 3 of them. So we don't really know at this point.
I don't know. I mean, what would I want?
Mm-hmm.
What would I want ultimately? Is I would want more Tom Holland and more Marvel Tom Holland, because they're doing it right. I liked all 3 of these movies. I like him. Like he did a lot of cry face this movie, but he did it well. And when I look at those 3 Spider-Men and feel like you said 20 years of Spider-Man, he's good. He is right. He's the most Peter Parker of them, and that whole, I love that arc too, of like the arc that Tobey Maguire got here, that it did not, there was some clunkiness, but to set it up at the end, he's filled with this revenge. He wants to he's going to kill this guy, and Tobey Maguire gets to set up and say, don't be old and bitter like that. Don't do what I did. My uncle died, and I got revenge on that guy, which, that's one way of twisting how that movie went. But, basically he gets to jump up and stop him from killing Green Goblin, and, changing the way, stopping him where no one stopped himself in the, first movie. It's like, I don't know if they pulled all that off, but it was still something that I'm amazed they got to try, to do. When I thought getting stabbed and it not amounting to anything was a little odd.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me a little bit. I was
like,
what?
oh, he's gonna die, which would have been fine. It's not like that. It's further along in his timeline. Like, who cares if that Spider-Man lives?
That would have felt a little cheap emotionally. But... Yeah, I am all for not beating a dead horse and not grinding these things to the ground, but I would be all for more solo movies with this guy.
But solo, if you were going to follow this thread, of a grown-up Tom Holland,
especially if you make the stakes a little more personal and smaller, like he's been fighting Thanos in space and global, defense satellites. Like, everything's been huge and epic. Like, if Venom comes after him and he has to stop Venom, like, that would be a fine next movie. Like, I would, if you could do one-on-one solo story, I'd be all for it.
It'd have to be a much lower thing. Like, it's so funny because for the movie, we watch the trailers and see that Jared Leto thing, and it's like after the movie, I'm like, oh, I'm never watching that. Like after this movie, I can't go back for movies like this.
That's my whole
garbage,
point. Is like, are you going to continue to let Sony make Spider-Man movies with at all? Because they're all, to me, just terrible. Venom's terrible. Morbius is going to be terrible. The whole universe is terrible because it's never going to compare to what Disney is doing or has done. And I'm not in it. Like, I felt like after watching that, great ending. Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
It felt like a stopping point. To me, it did not feel like a brand new day. It felt like, this is it. This was it. We put a ribbon on it. They had to have something at the end saying, well, now he's just the classic Spider-Man, that was his origin story. Those 3 movies is a great our telling of his origin story for the classic Spider-Man, but we're never going to do it because we don't own this guy.
Right. Yeah, that was, as much as I enjoyed it, I also felt there's a little bit of cracks of like the things that worry me about these multiverse movies and Loki and time travel, like how much I love the continuity and how tight everything is plotted. Like it's already starting to feel like, okay, well then what's next? Are we going to have other things come from other dimensions? That like, if Doctor Strange can just wave his wand and change things, like, again, they haven't done anything to really offend me or change my mind, but I just keep waiting for it. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop for them to mess this up. Yeah. This perfectly plotted thread.
There's a way to go too far. Like you've said before, you don't like these multiverse things, and I get it because of that reason. It's the same thing. Okay, so Jesse's in my Dragon Age campaign now, so of course I've introduced time travel. In our last session, time travel was introduced. Great Scott. So now that's great and everything, but you have to be very careful because once you introduce time travel, everyone is going to always think, how can we fix this with time travel?
Right.
I feel like such a Scrooge because that stuff is so fun.
Yeah.
That's all so fun seeing other versions of people and all this stuff, but it also like some part of me is always like, I don't like this.
I don't like
messing with the original
this at all.
I always like the multiverse stuff, but I always like it because as long as they can bring it back into one.
Yeah.
It's fun to do for a little bit, but always have that exit strategy of bringing it back to one.
It has to get closed really well. You can't leave Venom laying on the bar.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Clean up your symbiotes.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention earlier, the one thing I was expecting and a little disappointed, Octavius kind of switches sides and becomes the good guy. And I wanted some nod to, I'm a superior Spider-Man. Like I thought there might be some like he's also a version of Spider-Man in some universe, but that's a little deep.
Yeah, it definitely, between watching this and honestly just listening to Jesse talk about the Spider-Verse thing for 4 hours or whatever I listened, I love Spider-Man. Like it makes me want to go read some of those runs I missed and start ordering omnis and all.
I'm sure there's omnibuses
out there.
Please you.
Yes, I know. But it's just like there's so much good stuff out there. There's so many good Spider-Man stories. He's such a good that character of that's why it was just such a novelty to watch these Peter Parkers together, because he's always nobody gets what it's like to be Spider-Man, and that's so easy to that's the draw, honestly. I was thinking about when I was listening to him Spider-Versing, like what my first Spider-Man I mentioned before was the Electric Company Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, where are you coming from, Spider-Man? Nobody knows who you are.
Okay, true believers, here he is, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Today's episode, Spidey meets the Spoiler. And let's hope our favorite web slinger hasn't also met his match. Ever alert, the legendary wall crawler is looking for something. And he's found it. A rubber glove sandwich. Hard to bite, difficult to chew, and impossible to swallow.
And I don't know whether, I highly doubt that was in the Spider-Verse series, but it was that guy, just a guy in a suit or whatever. It's like a comic strippy thing. Morgan Freeman would be in it and stuff. It's like this is the early 70s version. I would love to go. I should go back and watch that and see what made me like that. Like it looks terrible, and I don't know what about it, but I know I was, and that's why I watched the Electric Company. It was just like, when is Spider-Man going to be on it? I was so like amazed by that character. And it couldn't have been doing anything.
Now that you're talking about this, I feel like maybe does this movie only work with a character as strong as Spider-Man, or with a history of movies as beloved as these are. Like, you couldn't do this movie with the X-Men movies. Where like, let's bring in characters from we've done that with multiple Quicksilvers and stuff, but like, people don't love those movies the way they love these Spider-Man movies. Right. And like I said, hearing those cheers in the theater, these are people who grew up with these. These are part of their childhood or some fabric of their lives. Where we were already adults when these movies were coming out, and we're already sort of like, we've seen comic book movies before. These are fine, but like to a pretty substantial part of the younger generation, like, these movies have always been there. And now they're memes. I'm something of a scientist myself and that kind of stuff. Like, these movies live on as bigger than they were because they're part, they're gifts and memes, and they're just, I don't know, there's just something bigger than the sum of their parts. And I feel like, if you just pick some other movie, like, let's take characters from, let's have Dolph Lundgren Punisher meet Thomas Jane's Punisher. Like, that just doesn't, that's nothing.
Yeah. What else is there that there's like multiple people playing the same character?
There's lots of Batmans, I guess, lots of Supermans, but
James Bond.
Lots of James Bond.
The James Bondiverse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I was thinking what you were saying, Cliff, about Cooper relaying it, because to me, my first instinct was like, this is just so made for us. Like, we have all this history of watching all this and reading all these things and stuff, and like, I was telling you, watching it, it's like, I just want to say, this was in the comics, kinda, and they did this. Remember, he revealed himself in Civil War in the comics, and then they wanted to go back on it, and he was married to Mary Jane, and he was a professor or whatever, and they wanted to go back to the status quo, and they came up with this thing and yada yada. But then, like, so it's just like, we have so much history with this, but then watch it with Nick today, and he watches the Marvel movies, but he's not anywhere. He's like, they're fine or whatever. But this got his attention. Yeah. Because he grew up when he was a kid. I took him to these things, and he
didn't read comics.
No. So he'd go to the comic shop with me and sit down. Right. And do nothing.
Frankly, it was offensive, but I was a little insulted.
Yeah. So, but he definitely liked Tobey Maguire Spider-Man back then, and so this he was so enough of a level of not being interested in it that he wasn't following the buzz online. He didn't know exactly, even as much as I knew what was going to happen. So it was neat to see him enjoy this. Like, wow,
So it's close to like how much Cliff is loving this He-Man cartoon on Netflix. Like, it's taking a thing that was beloved and like bring it back into pop culture and up to respectability and making it more out of it than maybe it was back then.
Yeah, and that was my entire point to him. Is I told him nothing about I don't. Of course, he has watched the trailers. I'm sure he knows such and such is going to be in it. He knows all that, but he's anticipating that because he's really excited. Because these are at that time period when he was a little kid, when they were little kids, this was the biggest superhero franchise. And it, like you said, it was at its peak. Those movies were as he was growing up, because I remember even with Andrew Garfield, we went and we watched both of those movies. I actually liked them better than the Tobey Maguire movies because I don't know. I was never a big Tobey Maguire guy, but to him, I mean, this is a big deal. Like, he's driving to Columbus Monday. He's waiting till Monday to see it. He's going to the AMC.
This is a good IMAX movie. I did think when I started hearing really good buzz, I thought, oh crap, I should have figured out a way to see this in IMAX.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. And for like you said, for me, I'm not going to go see Spider-Man. I'm not driving all the way to Columbus to see Spider-Man. But if it was anything else, if it was Star Wars, if it was whatever.
The whole like Kevin Feige like continues. I know we give him who knows if he deserves all the credit he gets, but
Yeah.
again, a movie fixing old movies, like not enough to make you want to go back and watch them again,
Right,
but like taking these things like Amazing Spider-Man and fixing them, like giving these villains a proper send-off, where giving everyone closure and things is just like amazing. It's crazy,
and it's very quickly. We already know this is very quickly going to be a fad. We know the
Feige
Flash
doing some Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay, now what's he going to fix? I can't wait.
I don't know. But like with DC, they've already been in production of this new Flash movie where they've got Keaton's Batman and stuff in it, and it's very quickly going to become a fad, like everything.
But can everybody pull it off?
No, absolutely not.
That's why I'm worried.
Yeah.
Too much of a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I thought this. I do think this was, in my opinion, the best Spider-Man movie I've seen. Not including, Endgame and those where it wasn't a Spider-Man movie. It was a, Avengers movie or Captain America or whatever. So in that, but yeah, I'm not good. It's not something that I was like, this good on them. I was very positive about it. I thought this was a great movie. It just doesn't, have such a heavy meaning for me as it does.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It's going to
it wasn't Endgame. Like
no.
What Endgame's a 5-star movie for me. Like I cried tears of joy. This did not do that to me. I enjoyed it. I liked that they were able to pull it off, but it wasn't on that level for me. No, I totally agree with that.
I had an awful lot of fun. But as far as a film, you got to. Again, we just saw it. We got to let it soak in a little bit and think some more about it and watch it a few more times. But it wasn't the greatest thing, but it was just, again, they pulled it off and it was an enjoyable time.
Now, you know what I did not? My biggest disappointment was
no James Franco.
Ugh.
Well, that crossed my mind multiple times in the movie. I was like, when is James Franco gonna come in and use his own?
Because I was gonna watch see if Cliff got up and left the theater.
Yeah,
that's why you were sitting 3 rows behind.
He'd have made a grunt out loud or something.
Yeah.
I had my camera. I was gonna film Cliff storming out.
Throw my popcorn and my drink at the screen.
That would have been priceless footage. Yeah. That's amazing. No, my biggest disappointment was, okay, so they have all these post-credit things after all these movies. Well, when you're someone that I just said several minutes ago that I don't like watching trailers anymore, this was the first time that we did not get some sort of stinger. We got a trailer.
Yeah, we did.
And I do not like that.
Somebody mentioned they did that at the end of Captain America, maybe First Avenger, like it's early Marvel days. They did a trailer like that. But I just read that online. Don't quote me. But so it's not the first time they've done it apparently. But yeah, I didn't like it.
I hated it.
I was like, this is going on too long.
That's not what we ever got. I wanted some 10-second comment from that story. I knew it was going to be something from the multiverse, but not a trailer of the movie. I was just like, get me out of here. This is not what I want to see.
Like if he had just walked up to Wanda and be like, Wanda, I need your help for that kind of thing. Like that's what
exactly what I was expecting was that. So I need you for the multiverse initiative. And that's it. Just like that, but not the whole thing with Mordo. And, it's just like, come on.
I totally agree in the fact
lazy.
I really did. That's
that corporate machine. We gotta give you. I gotta advertise.
But number one, the second scene waiting all the way until the credits, I was like, ugh, like just give me a mid-credit scene so I can get out of here. But both of them were highly disappointing to me. I walked out and I was just like, wow, that was normally
you didn't like the
the Tom Hardy and then the trailer.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, both of them, because I thought, wow, that movie had a great ending, and then they totally ruined it by these crappy in credit scenes.
Although kudos for playing Magic Number by De La Soul.
That was good.
That was terrific.
That was good.
All right. So we got to do some rankings. Maybe not overanalyze these things, but I made some lists. Just tip of your tongue, top of your head. Give me your favorite. All right. Best Uncle Ben. Cliff Robertson from the Raimi movies or Martin Sheen?
I can't even remember Martin Sheen doing the Uncle Ben.
He's in it for 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I remember it now.
I haven't watched that forever.
Definitely I will say Martin Sheen between those two, because I
don't remember loving Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben either.
I remember the white hair.
I'm going to take the race
hair, and he just didn't look like, I don't know. Yeah.
Rice.
He was Uncle serviceable, but yeah, Martin Sheen, I think they tried to expand his role a little more and give him a little more to do.
I just realized I was sitting here in my Spider-Man blanket.
Nice. All right, best Aunt May. We had Rosemary Harris in the original, Sally Field with Andrew Garfield, Lily Tomlin did the voice in Spider-Verse, or Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei, she's the hottest Aunt May. That's what you asked, right?
Let me check my notes. Oh, that's the next question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like a high-waisted Aunt May.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But I gotta tell you, rewatching all these movies recently, Amazing Spider-Man isn't a bad movie. It's and Sally Field is terrific.
Yeah.
And again, Martin Sheen was really good. So they were really good. But I don't think anybody's done what Marissa Tomei has been able to do with that role.
More money.
All right, who is his best love interest? We had Kirsten Dunst as the original Mary Jane. And the third one, Bryce Dallas Howard showed up as Gwen Stacy. Or we had Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy in the second series. Animated, we had Haley Steinfeld was Gwen, was Miles' love interest. Or Zoe Kravitz was Mary Jane in those movies. Or in the recent ones, it's Zendaya.
Zendaya does a good job. She does a good job. She has some funny. She's really quirky, like the way she acts. Like I don't love all that, but she delivers some good funny lines.
Definitely not the damsel in distress.
No. Yeah, my problem with her is she's too the character she portrays. Yeah, like you said, she's kind of off. She's kind of she's kind of nerdy and has idiosyncrasies that are more believable, that she would be interested in the Peter Parker character. But to me, that isn't the point. So I would say, out of the movies, I would say Emma Stone.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but again, I'm just voting who was the hottest one.
Especially rewatching this, I loved Far From Home is not my favorite of these, but like when they get together on the bridge and it's this big romantic moment, and he just kind of pecks her on the cheek, and it's a weird, awkward teen kiss. It's not like kissing in the rain upside down. Like they're weird, awkward kids, and they had a weird, awkward kiss. I was like, that felt so authentic to me. It was like a first kiss for a teenager. I
really like her version. It's not Face a Tiger, this is she's definitely a much more quirky, nerdy, hands-on Mary Jane. I like that dynamic. What does she say at the end of this movie? I was sitting here trying to think of it. She right before, when he's telling her she's going to forget about him and stuff, she said something really funny and I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I'll think of it later. But I know first she says I'll just figure it out again,
Oh yeah.
which was awesome. And then she says something else, but I can't remember. I did. But yeah, what's your next one?
Well, just being the first time I saw these movies, I had no opinion on Kirsten Dunst whatsoever. Like I'm sure I'd seen her in some stuff, but like I've seen her in a lot more stuff. I like her more, in her later career.
Yeah.
So going back and watching these early ones, like she is really good, and she looks like a John Romita drawing. Like she has the cheeks and she looks like she stepped off the comic book page. But Emma Stone's terrific. I think she might even top Mary Jane. But best Spider-Man and or Peter Parker: Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Shameik Moore as Miles, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, or Tom Holland.
That's a toughie.
I think Tom Holland is just taking the.
He's the most
taking the
Peter
reins.
Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I think more of his jokes land. Like I think it's a funnier Peter. He's a smarter. Like all the science stuff makes sense. It just seems the most. He's
a very ultimate Spider-Man. Peter Parker, like he's the believably high school Peter Parker, and he's just very. He definitely. They're gonna throw a bunch of money at him. I don't see how this guy isn't going to be Spider-Man again.
He's got that new Uncharted movie coming out.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, if you were wondering if he was going to be Spider-Man again and accept the money, he's got that new Uncharted movie coming out. Accepted that.
My kid's super excited about. He played that game for a long time. He's super excited about. This movie coming out.
I've played through that entire series. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. I don't know that Mark Wahlberg's a good.
No, but
Sully.
He somehow always gets in these. I'll say
he weasels his way in there.
Yeah. I definitely like. I definitely think Spider-Man is more tolerable in the Tom Holland, the Disney version. But that's probably, it might be a little bit to me because he seems less Spider-Man. So
it's more like Iron Man. You like Iron Man better. So
right. Yeah. So I will I'll say Peter number 3. Because I liked him better than Tobey Maguire.
Okay. All right, villains. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina, Dr. Octopus, Topher Grace, Venom, Thomas Hayden Church, Sandman, Rhys Ifans, Lizard, Jamie Foxx, Electro, Catherine Hahn as the voice of Dr. Octopus, Liev Schreiber as Wilson Fisk, Michael Keaton as the Vulture, Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. That's pretty good. Those are some
great villains.
Terrific actors, very good comic villains.
My favorites out of those two are the Vulture.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is a Vulture and Alfred Molina, Doc Ock. And rewatching Spider-Man 2 a couple months ago, like, he's incredible. He's just great. I think he's the best. He does the best job, and that would be my answer.
I like Keaton.
It's a great. I was disappointed that he was from this universe, so he didn't get to be in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was because it took me a little bit to figure out he wasn't going to be there. I was like, oh, he's not going to
come up with some reason.
I was like, he knows he's Spider-Man. I was like, that was cool. They set that up. I was like, wait a minute, he already lives here.
Yeah.
So no big deal.
Too busy being Batman right now.
Yeah.
Again.
But again, to me, all these have elements that I really love. Like Mysterio, it was a great take on that of the special effects guy.
Yep.
Even Venom, Topher Grace, like that idea of like a darker mirror image. Like it wasn't his fault the story was dumb. Like Topher Grace did a very good job. Willem Dafoe, iconic, memeable. Yeah. And even in this movie, they take it more. It felt like a more honest mental illness. Like it wasn't just I'm a crazy villain. And Willem Dafoe brought it to that.
Well, I guess
Jamie Foxx is charismatic and like Electro is probably the worst villain on this list, and he's still good.
He's like, look, I'll do that, but I'm not going to be that nerdy guy you made me be. We'll just kind of mention, hey, you're different. Yeah, but I guess Willem Dafoe was like, I will sign on to do this movie, but I'm not going to just be a cameo. And so great, absolutely,
respect.
Yeah, that awesome. Play that character again.
Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, from a not great movie. When that movie, I started watching that movie, I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this. I forgot Sandman was even in there, and he's the best part of it. But to me, there's nothing as good as Vulture. Michael Keaton was phenomenal. They took a kind of silly character. He's an old man who steals your youth, and they made him a vulture who took, he picks out of the scraps and like makes something like that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
To take it, to ground it in that universe. To have a beef with Tony Stark and all the alien tech, and Michael Keaton just sells the crap out of it. So there's not been anybody to me better than Vulture.
Now I thought when they fought and he shot when the spider legs came out of his back or whatever. For a second I was like, is this the first time in my life I'm realizing why his number one? I was like, seriously, is this the first time in my life that I realized why Doc Ock is his number one villain? That they both have 8 legs, because I'm not sure that ever crossed my mind before.
And he drinks salt water, of course.
Right, that was funny.
All right, finally, we got to rank them. What is your favorite Spider-Man movie?
Mm-hmm.
Did this one, Cliff? I think you said earlier this one edged out everything else. This one's your tops.
Yeah. I mean, I think Spider-Man 2 with Molina was a good movie. Again, it's just not my fave, but I think this definitely felt like something different. So yeah, right now I would say yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I really like Homecoming. I think Spider-Man 2 is great. It's a really super solid superhero movie, period. It's one of the best. But this goes so far. I mean, it's just like the story to take all, it's hard to pick a normal movie. Those are normal movies compared to this. This is
it's
ridiculous.
Almost not fair. This is like the All-Star team.
This is not fair. But also I watched it a couple hours ago. This is against your rules, Jordan. You're the one asking the question, and you say we're not allowed to decide something so early. I don't know. I mean, I guess it'd take me a while to come up with an answer.
I just gotta say, rewatching most of these.
Wait, did you say was Spider-Verse a choice?
Yeah,
that's
I didn't list
favorite.
them, but yeah,
that's my favorite. Sorry, that it just got easier. Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Into Spider-Verse.
That's a fair pick. But yeah, rewatching them, the only one, Far From Home, with Mysterio, that's the only one I liked kind of less the second time I watched it, because it was like, I don't know, it didn't really do it for me, and it drugged in the middle quite a lot. It's like, this was not as good as I hoped.
Mm-hmm.
But rewatching all the old ones, I found something to like in all of them. Even Spider-Man 3, the most reviled movie of the bunch, it was fine, and there was some decent stuff. There's really good Mary Jane stuff there, where Peter's becoming more famous, and she's losing jobs, and he's not paying attention to her, and she's really struggling with it. It was there's some really good emotional moments in that movie, and then he does the dance, and that's all anybody remembers.
That's all I remember.
Yeah. But to me, I think Homecoming is still my favorite. I think having the Vulture as the villain is terrific. Tom Holland, that performance was coming off all these Avengers cameos and stuff, and that idea of if I without the suit I'm nothing, if you know, if I can't remember the exact quote, but if maybe you don't need the suit, if you don't deserve the suit if you're nothing without it. That's not how it. That's not the exact quote, but
what's
but
up,
again,
Danger? That's the quote.
The movies didn't quite pay that off later. He was still overly tech reliant and all that stuff, but that idea always stuck with me from Homecoming of like, Peter doesn't need enhanced vision and tracking devices and all this stuff. Like, I think Homecoming would be my number one still.
Good stuff. We like Spider-Man. Even Cliff was able to talk about Spider-Man for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that was something else. I'm excited. I said this movie is going to make a whole lot of money because people are going to go back to this movie and watch it a couple times, I'm sure.
I'm going to watch Spider-Verse. I want to watch Spider-Verse now.
All right, so that will do it for us this time, right? We Spider-Man'd it up.
Yep.
Definitely.
If we missed anything, let us know. If you disagree on anything, let us know. Thanks to all the patrons and folks. We put this poll out on Facebook. There's a cat coming into the I was looking down. I just looked up and Cliff was all of a sudden a cat. Sorry. The magic of Zoom.
The
all
cat
right,
daddy.
Hey. Cat daddy. My cat daddy. My name is Jordan Lowe. We will talk to you later. Goodbye.
No web fans, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stops the spoiler. Or does he?
Spider-Man, where are you coming from, Spider-Man? Nobody knows who you are.
Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast @gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, join our Patreon at patreon.com/udownwithkpp for special content and access to Patreon-only benefits. We are grateful for anyone who chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will remain free. So please continue to like, comment, and share.